growing up, and you helped me with this, right? My heart was so big, and helping people for me. I never told you where helping people really set fire for me. Ever told you the story? So there was a guy.
Tell me the story.
Yeah, there was a guy in primary school called David Loftus, right? And it's funny how we're even speaking about him, because I seen his sister on Facebook just as I come off, and it brought it all back. I completely forgot about this guy, which is pretty bad, because he was probably my best mate growing up in school. And he had some type of leukemia, right? And he lost his eyesight. And I remember I used to have to take him to the toilet in school. And I remember this like it was yesterday. And I wasn't, maybe I'd had a piss, I don't know. But I remember standing at the sink, and he was having a piss, and he said, "I'm not afraid of going, because I think I'm going to get my eyesight back."
No, mate.
Right, honestly. And people, you see, in these sticky situations like that, you see courage at its finest sometimes, you know. Like I've seen it, I've witnessed this a few times, Lisa's sister, another one. And is this the right word, fascinated? Because I'm intrigued that way. Like, I really connect with that type of behaviour or energy, you know, when people are just seeing the...
So, yeah, what happened? What?
Well, he passed away, but I think that my way of caring for him, maybe that was the start of it, because I still have that feeling that I had for him that day. You know, where generally, you know me, I generally give a shit about the people I love. And we'll go
to your own detriment.
Yeah, which has been in the end, right? But that's always been a feeder, and now I've been able to control that. You know, it's obviously having a better result, but... And I seen death at a young age, and I remember that heartache, and I remember his sister, you know, and I remember just thinking, even though there was a lot of loss, I remember thinking that I'd gained a lot as well, you know.
I think we all have these moments where it wakes you up a little bit. You forget stuff like that, don't we?
Yeah,
we forget these.
But it then led on to this feeling of needing people's approval, acceptance, and this way of...
I was going to come down
to
this, because I think a lot of it, you know, we're talking about getting in shape. You said, you were really in shape and at your unhappiest. Not unhappiest, but you're still unhappy.
Massively.
I've been in great shape. Like, I look back, I found a picture of me not long back, and I was like shredded. The reality is, I probably then would have been going, I'm not shredded enough. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'd have been searching for them extra things. But I remember looking at me thinking, God, I was so unhappy then at 28, 27. I was so unhappy. When I pin back to a huge amount of my own journey and what you were talking about there, is like, I think really I was just looking to be enough all the time. Looking to be accepted, looking to be kind of like, I'm enough, to be accepted by, but ultimately it was by myself, wasn't it? But to have a level of like, I had no self-esteem, I don't think, no self-worth. It was like always trying to gain some kind of approval. Do you know what I mean? And I think that is at the root of most of the struggles we have as human beings, this desire to be accepted for who we are. Like, you know, like for the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
And that's a hard point to change. And I was thinking for you as well, some of the stuff you've come through and you've changed, and you've left behind certain, you know, maybe people or certain environments, sort of thing. There comes a level, I think, well, from my own experience, I'm not going to put words into your mouth, but where you're like a little bit of guilt, sometimes a little bit of frustration, a bit of shame almost through you've been, and shame through you've been, and then guilt for like getting away from that on times. Yeah,
you helped me with that a lot, right? But maybe Paul, a few people have helped me with that. Because you remember when I started transitioning, I started to be a better man. Looking back, I was like, man, I've done some gnarly shit. You know what I mean? I've been.
If you're honest though, be honest. It's hard to admit. I bet you were an insecure man back then.
Listen, I've said to you this before, this comes from insecurity. And this comes from insecurity because although it's like, oh yeah, primary school, and my friend David gave me a lesson there that, you know, has really probably shaped me to the man I am. Primary school was horrific for me. You know, I was getting bullied real bad. You know, I had a kid in my year, there was an older brother in the year above and an older brother in the year above that, and I was up against the three of them. I had bent teeth, second name Fanning, you can imagine the shit that was coming up, and I was terrorised, you know. So maybe the insecurity comes from that because, you know, flip forward into high school when I actually knocked this kid clean out. probably out of fear, the whole, you know,
Yeah.
drop the whole fanny, you know, bent teeth, everyone's laughing. My reaction was to just bang, and then, whoa, that changed. And then he didn't, you know, from that point on, he didn't carry on with that shit.
Yeah, you gained a level of...
I gained a level, but actually I started dealing with everything like that.
Yeah.
You know, it created the opposite, well, the other extreme. And looking back now, I know it was because I got scared that quick. This was my reaction. And I was known for a bit of a, you know, an erratic, hot-headed guy. And because I would just try and put the fire out straight away. And then, you know, most guys are full of shit as well. And you know, it's not like a race thing where I'm from, but, you know, white guy where I was from was deemed a shitbag. And a lot of these guys had this persona of people just back down. So when he met me and I didn't back down, you know, they quickly changed.
Do you think you got, I reckon, mate, I'm not analysing, you know, do you think you got a lot of self-worth from that then? I think we form identities. And
Yeah,
I think it fed something though, didn't it? It's like, yeah, this is who I am. Like, I'm like, look at me, I'm something, like I've got my stuff now. This is who I am.
Well, in marketing, it's all about your brand, right? On the streets, the same. Like, I despise gangsters, right? And, you know, maybe people got a different... The gangsters I seen were guys that, yeah, they maybe had the name, had done the thing, but it's just like a business. You know, you're feeding down in the hierarchy to get, you know, your employees to do the footwork, you know? And it just didn't appeal to me, that. Although a lot of my friends were, and I respect them for what they were doing, and I understand why the temptation come in, and also why it becomes a little bit attractive, you know, because I'm all about brotherhood. You know, you know me, I want to be part of a team.
Yep.
I want to roll with a crew. So it's especially when, you know, the attraction is the misconception of the power and the money. That looks very appealing to any man.
Yeah, what do you miss about that?
Miss about that world?
Yeah, because I watched an interview with one of the top mafia dons who'd come out and not got killed, not gone to jail, because basically made everyone a shitload of money. Yeah. And he was like, what? Yeah. He was like, that world is so appealing to men and young boys. And he explains why, I'm not going to say. And they said, what do you miss about it? And I'm not going to say what you missed about it, but he missed something. What do you...
Well, there's a lot of things that I miss about it. I think the extremes I miss. I really miss the extremes, you know. The only way I can put it, you got guys that go to war and come back. They struggle with civilization, right? With normal day-to-day 9-to-5 stuff. I really struggled with that for a long time. Remember I told you the story about me saying to my girlfriend at the time, I think everyone was trying to stab me in the back at this job. Remember?
Yeah. Because people
are
nice to you.
Are you fucking deluded? Maybe they're just like, that's how they are. And he actually generally did have me back.
I think that, you know, a lot of the world's like that now. Messages I get in my inbox is like, people at halfway through the free 5 days. Is this really free?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you sure you're not charging me? So how am I charging you? Like, how am I possibly charging you for this? But people are really like, there's a lot out there. People don't trust people.
I mean, I tried a few jobs and a few things. I've got a real problem with being told. This is what happened at school. Like, people, well, you know, you're being taught. No, I felt like I was being told. Why? Because if I started asking questions, they won't be answered. It was like, you know, I was being a rebel. In the end, that was having a skill to ask questions is why we've been able to catapult where we are now.
Yeah,
but maybe
you'd ask them better now as well.
There's the ego style things in it, like, you know, when
status you must miss.
Status massively, but. See, my status wasn't unfair. My status was on respect, and there's still a lot of guys that respect me for me respecting them. You know, even when we had things running and there was always be a cut, there were guys that would treat, you know, their workers like so disrespectfully, you know, paying with peanuts. I was always like, nah, we're 50-50 all the way. And it was unfortunate for them when they start making the money that, you know, their characters would change.
I suppose the reason is because I think changes, anyone listening to something like this is probably like, you know, I'm trying to change some stuff. And I think change is really difficult. Everyone makes out change is the simplest thing on the planet. But it's not. Like we're paid by people who want to change. Yeah. And that's still hard.
Oh, massively.
You know, like, because it's this process of letting go of who you've been and who you are.
Yeah.
And we all miss that. You know, there's I suppose what I'm trying to get across here is for you, yes, you know that the benefits far outweigh now than they did then, you know, in your life. But there was elements that would have that almost were hard to leave behind, weren't there?
Yeah, and there's a lot that I've not left behind that I've just been able to sharpen. You know, when I was at that thing going on with the Texas guys with the oil sales offices over in Texas, and I was sat in a room with multi-generational billionaires, right? That's how they introduce themselves. Hi, we're multi-generational billionaires. And
Is that your American accent?
Oh, yeah.
Was Mike Tyson there?
Nah.
God.
No,
Was
I
Mike
ain't doing
Tyson
Mike.
there?
I ain't doing Mike.
Go on, do Mike for everybody. God, you did Mike before we started.
Because now the pressure's on it. It'll probably come
Yeah,
out
listening.
Like,
You'll be fine.
You'll hear it one day. Like,
I reckon you could.
That fucking guy, man.
I reckon you
Take
could.
the fucking piss. Yeah, no.
I reckon you could take him anywhere.
I'd have a go.
Oh, here we go.
I fear no man, you know. Everyone's got a right hand. But I no doubt I'll be going in and getting
It's like the
levered.
Instagram comments right
Yeah.
now, because I love this. I watch little clips of it, but yeah, he wouldn't mess with me or Mike back in the day. He wouldn't mess
Yeah.
with my mate Steve down the road.
You see, I'd see it
Ashtray to
differently.
the edge. You're like,
I know.
Here we go.
Well, that's the difference in it, you know. I mean, I've got into Thai boxing. That's another story. How it leveled my
What
discipline.
were we
but-
talking about before that?
Where are we going?
We just
Oh,
got
yeah, so
Mike.
yeah, there's the
You're
things that I've learned. So
multi-generational
yeah.
billionaires.
And I remember him like, you had to have this, what do you call it? Not a prenup, like when you can't speak about certain things. What do you call it?
Yeah, I don't know, but I get what you're
Yeah,
saying.
you know,
You've got to
like-
sign something to say,
Yeah.
non-disclosure.
No disclosure, yeah. And I've took my auntie over who's massive with corporate deals with all the big airlines. So, you know, I've brought my own people and he's like, we don't speak about this, and this. And by the end of it, I had literally had these three guys eating out my hand. You know what I mean? But it was natural. And we spoke about everything they didn't want to speak about. Because I was inquisitive, I'm asking questions and I'm...
Crossover.
Yeah. And I come out and remember my auntie looking at me going, what the fuck happened in there?
So are you trying to say
That in terms of business and handling yourself...
you were able to bring a lot of them skills forward with
Yeah,
you?
massively. You know,
What
like,
don't you miss about your time back then?
what I don't miss is the corruption and destruction on both sides. Yeah. And I also don't miss the greed, you know, the scent of greed. You know me with disrespect and loyalty. I don't miss any of that. You know, bullshitting, people full of shit. I think corruption's the most used word in the dictionary. And, you know, I've seen some corrupt things in my time, but also I've also seen in them industries like police and judges, you know, do some great things.